Hello, punters, and welcome back to another episode of AFL Unpopular Opinions. I'm Ryan Cook. Joining me, like they do every single week, it's Tom Rockliff, Alastair Lynch, and Jack Lindley. Fellas, how are we? How did we find the footy over the weekend?
Yeah, pretty good round of footy, wasn't it?
Some really interesting. Some didn't exactly hit the highs that we might expect, but it was good, I think, to see Brisbane. I reckon that reinforced what we were talking about last week.
Yeah, well.
Drop Cam Rayner.
Drop Cam Rayner.
They're watching our videos.
Charlie Cameron.
Bang, bang.
What they get? 5 goals between them?
But I wasn't wrong in what I said, in my opinion.
Lots of support in the comments.
I know that they performed pretty well, but it was still typical of those guys' performance. Charlie went bang, 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 kicked 3 goals in the space of 30 seconds, and Cam was really quiet. I think he halfway through the 30 had 3 disposals and then come good. Yep. So it was good to see him play well.
That's why they are good, because they can have players that jump in and rip the game apart, and I reckon they've been bored.
Yeah.
I reckon they're not those players, but the team basically been bored in different stages and treading water. But now they go to the MCG against another contender. They thought, whack. And, I thought it was a good display.
Do you think it's part of that position as well, that you can't have consistent performances being a forward pocket? You know, you're either hot or you're cold. You either get in footy or you're not.
Yeah, I think Charlie was good. I mean, he hasn't had the year that he's probably wanted. And the one that I was talking about was the week before when he started to fumble, which he never does, where... I understand forward pocket's a really hard position to play. You don't get many opportunities. The thing, Rayner goes through the midfield, but they were really good. Like they answered, they performed really well on the road against Hawthorn. Maybe that's what they needed, just to come up against a good team. That's why I don't coach, because I would have made a selection call and they didn't need it.
Well, maybe they heard the segment.
Well, I think they did. I seen them after the game. They were hugging, and I think they may have... We showed Rocky.
Yeah. You dropped the F-bomb then.
Yeah, I did,
I thought it was good. But Fags is one of those coaches that sticks.
Loyal.
Yeah, just sticks and sticks and sticks. Because I think even whether it's dropping Charlie Cameron or not, I'd go for the first option. I'd get him to half back. Just to get a bit of run. And actually, on that, good to see Eric Hipwood get up into the midfielder's second ruckman. Backup ruck, just to get change of position.
I think the story out of that game is potentially the Hawks.
I was going to say, we're going to get to them.
Yeah, I don't think they're going as well as what they have. They had that mad run last year. So they started really poor and then mad run last year.
It's like the reverse.
And now, it's almost, since that Port Adelaide game, it's like they've almost been worked out, and now opposition teams just go to school on them.
And it doesn't help, I mean, a couple of injuries, but it doesn't help when you're captain James Sicily, who's a star. He's a very, very good player that teams will put in a lot of time in. He's just cold as ice at the moment. So that'd be a concern for him and obviously the coaching staff, just to find a way to get him back into form.
Yeah.
And that's why I would have thought even maybe defensive role on it, like a Harris Andrews.
Yeah, go to the other end.
Go to the other end, just with a task, just to lock on for a week or two.
There is a rumour that his groins are no good. So.
Well, that makes sense.
They've got to come out and say that, though. Like, what's the point in not telling people?
You've got to protect your captain.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he might need a couple of weeks off. I know that when early days, not early days, but when Brownie and Fev were playing, they both had groin issues, and you lose your power. You can't perform as well as you needed.
Well, I agree. They should. Well, give him a couple of weeks off.
Yeah.
He's not doing himself any favours. He's not doing the team any favours. And you just got to look after him, because if you're going to win it or you're going to contend, you need him playing well. Yeah. So they've got to work out the best way to do that.
Where are you at as a former player that's changed positions? Should he stay in the back line or should he stay forward? Because there's been a lot of debate about this.
Yeah, no, I think it's just non-negotiable. He's a backman.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Yeah, I mean, mix it around to how do you get him in form, and that's why different if he's got the injury, but that's why I would have given him a task on Harris Andrews. But no, he's a defender, and I think it's a lot easier when you're a good defender to pinch hit forward. So you're up and going, you're playing weeks of good footy, and you're confident. Then go forward for a half or maybe even a week and do well, but then go back to where your real asset is.
What kind of message does that send the rest of the team when you're moving your captain around the field, just try to get him into form type thing?
No, I think everyone will be on knowing that how important he is for the team. And he's down at the moment, like just with his performance. But even interviewing with Sarah Jones and Fox at halftime when he's come back out on the ground, he hasn't got that bubble about him.
No.
He's conscious. He knows where he's at.
Yeah.
And obviously, if it is an injury, they should spell him, get him right.
Yeah, you don't want to see him out there underperforming. I think just jumping around, the contrast of Thursday night footy and Friday night footy last week, we had probably the game of the season on the Thursday night, a spectacle, high scoring, Geelong versus the Dogs, into an absolute fizzer. You would nearly think it was two different competitions, Essendon and Richmond.
Oh.
We got a showpiece on Thursday night.
Game.
Yeah, depends who you ask.
But it is two different competitions.
Yeah.
Realistically, has there more red pen gone through clubs earlier than in recent years? Because you go through, where's the red pen as far as who's in contention to win it? West Coast gone, North gone, Richmond gone, Port gone, St Kilda gone, Sydney Swans gone, Carlton gone to win it, Melbourne can't win it, Essendon can't win it. But I reckon...
Jeez, the pen is out, isn't
Freo
it?
can't win it. Freo are too hot and cold for me.
Yeah, right, they can't win it.
So you're down to a final 8.
Recent years, we'll get into round 20 and there's still 14 teams trying to get in the 8.
Yeah.
But the texture came out on the weekend or the last couple of weeks.
Are you hovering over Hawthorn at the moment with that?
Well, it depends. Who's going to jump? Melbourne, the last 2 weeks, you would say, if they get on a run.
That's the one I can't put the red pen through.
Yeah.
I still think what are they sitting at 11th?
Yeah,
well,
11th.
still have
They've
the
only won
talent in the
5
list.
from 11.
And what have they on 4 of the last 5, I think. So they've done well. But you're talking about actually winning it?
No,
what's
they're not winning
what's
it.
their forward line look like to win it?
So who can win it then? Because you're not saying the whole 8 can win it.
No, well, Collingwood can win it. Brisbane are still my favourites. I don't think the Gold Coast can win it.
No.
Too soon for them?
Well, yeah, and we'll have a look at their draw in a sec. Who they've played and their next 8 weeks is really tough. So I don't think they can win it. They'll win it in the next couple of years, I think. The Crows can't win it.
No. I thought they were disappointing until the second half against West Coast on the weekend.
I reckon Geelong could win it.
Yeah, Geelong can win it.
The best of Geelong can win it.
Easily.
I don't think Hawthorn. Bulldogs could win it. And when Sam Darcy comes back as well. And the Giants were one of my tips early in the year for a top 4 finish. I'm not sure they could win it.
I think they could win it.
So
How do you trust them, though?
Collingwood,
You can't trust them.
Collingwood, Brisbane, Geelong, Dogs, and Giants. Then
I reckon
down to 5.
Yeah. I think you have to still have the Giants in because we would be sitting here last year and saying that we don't trust Brisbane, and then they go on and win it. So if the Giants get their shit together in the back half of the year and go on that run, they tick all the elements. They had a lot out on the weekend and what they were able to do against Carlton, who Carlton are stuck in no man's land again.
Yeah.
And they were favourites in that game.
Oh.
No Finn Callaghan, and they still managed to make a meal of it. It's
Staggering. They had a lot of outs, the Giants. I think Kelly didn't play, Caniglio, Stringer.
Stringer, yeah.
Kelly, they had a lot out.
Yeah, they had a lot out. Carlton. I mean, but sometimes. Yeah, Carlton. They're talking about game plan and the pressures on the coach and that sort of stuff. I feel for Vossi at the moment because even go back 10 days to the Sydney Swans game. At halftime, they should have been 4 or 5 goals up. In the last quarter, there's chest marks been dropped in the middle of the ground. There's shots been missed. They're hitting targets inside 50. It's just like they look scared. They're playing scared, to take the game on or... when it's your shot from 30 metres out, actually want the shot. I
think they're last in the comp for conversion rate inside 50, which
Hitting
is
targets.
a surprise considering they got Curnow and...
2 Twin Towers.
Yeah, well, they just bomb it. They're a tough team and they just bomb it in thinking they'll do it. And so they spend a lot of time in their forward 50, but they haven't got the class small forward as well. I would imagine, I remember when we had Robert Walls' funeral last week and a few of the things that Wallsy did, and he was all about, taking ownership for where you find yourself or wanting the moment as well. I remember he did a survey when I first came up. It was you had to put in, if someone was going to have a shot after the siren to win the game, who did you want it to be? And I think I was one of the players that actually did this. I was picking, so I want you to take the shot or Roger Merritt to take the shot or something like that. Wolsey's big thing was, no, you want it. And I think when you get to a good stage in your career, you do want it. So who's going to take the shot? I want it. I just, looking at Carlton at the moment, I don't think there's enough people that want the shot.
Yep.
And now whether that's hitting the target inside 50 or shooting for goal, I think there's too many of their players would like someone else to do it rather than actually, I want it.
Yep.
I want the pressure. Because it is pressure.
Yeah.
But you learn to love that when you're playing in good sides.
Well, there's still the best stats, I think, in the game is obviously your scoreboard efficiency, so your accuracy in front of goals, but that kick inside 50, that's the money kick. That's the one that can either make or break you. And I think that's won teams of footy games this year, their delivery inside 50. Carlton's been so off.
So they're right off, and that's where I think the Gold Coast have evolved over the last couple of years. So now they're actually, because they were very reliant on just hack it in and find a goal somehow. So it was just hard work to score. But now over the last couple of years, especially with their runners off half back, now they're hitting the 35-metre lace-out pass and someone's having a set shot for goal. Beautiful.
Is that more of a system thing or is it an individual skill thing in terms of people not
confidence
looking?
too.
Confidence.
Well, and it can be a combination.
Yeah.
Combination of all, I would have thought,
So shit skills can slaughter a game plan. But, you start hitting targets and converting your opportunities. Again, like the first half against Sydney, they should have been well up. Then now your game plan looks all right, doesn't it? Because you actually... And the worst thing is, what happens is, especially this offensive running. So you work hard defensively, so that's one thing. But then you get the ball and you're off, so you've got to go. And so you've all got your systems, you know what you're supposed to be doing, but you take off and then someone turns the ball over centre wing and you're exposed the other way. So that happens, if that happens 3 or 4 times, you know what happens next time you get the ball and you take off? You're not going as hard because you think, old mate's going to slaughter it and I'm going to be exposed.
You've got your opponent in the
sitting
back of your mind. Yeah.
So that's when the problem compounds itself.
And I think their list management's been wrong. Like, to let Kennedy go, what they did to him in the final last year, subbing him off halfway through the second quarter, and then he leaves. He's dominating at the Western Bulldogs, and he's a really important role player. His ability to stop a opposition but also find the footy. So they also let small forward go as well. So, like...
Yes.
Where'd
he go? WA?
He's just eluded me.
Yep.
But
we'll clip that in.
Like, they're important players still, like the small forwards that can impact the scoreboard. Like, you've still got to have them, and they probably don't have that. Motlop's probably not having the year that he'd want and potentially not come on like they thought he would. But
he's potentially the one, isn't he?
Yeah.
They need him with a bit of zip up forward.
Was it Owies?
Yeah, that's him.
So who's the player, say they get to the end of the year, they don't make finals, who's the player that they could potentially trade, or they need to shake it up?
Well, they do. So, like, obviously De Koning's
going.
Probably going, like, if he doesn't sign. But do they go, all right, we're in a position now where we've got to look at a whole list rebuild with Tassie coming in?
Yep.
Do they, because their stars are stars and they've still got trade value in them. So, like, Paddy Cripps hasn't had the year that he's had. I'm not saying trade him.
I was going to say, you're not starting there.
But it might be a Harry Mackay. It might be, like, you don't probably Curnow, like, you're not going to let a Curnow go. Harry Mackay's been not as consistent. He's still going to demand strong value. So if you lose De Koning and Mackay, you potentially get 4 or 5 first rounders.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's a big call, because what's that saying is we're going again. We're changing the list.
Well, I think their top end is what has let them down. Like, not let them down. So they've got really high top end talent, and then they drop away really, really dramatically. Their bottom 5 probably is not where it is. So if you can get those, say, 5 first rounders, but you bring in a couple, you're not using all them on picks. You bring in some really good quality role players, those mid tier players. You might get, so a Liam Baker, for instance, goes, like, if you brought him across, guys like that, you might pinch 2 for, say, if they end up with 5 first rounders, you might have pick 2 or whatever it ends up being. You shift pick 2 for 2 really good mid-tier players that are going to elevate you, but lift your bottom 5 up.
Yep.
I think they may. So you're not necessarily rebuilding, but you're resetting and bringing in some quality talent.
Yeah. You could be a coach after all. You're selling
List manager.
Hey, on the draft, let's just quickly dig into Ross Lyon's comments because there's been a
goal.
It is absolutely.
Where do you guys sit on it? I'm really curious.
I love it.
Entertaining, and that's. I mean, what I think Rossi and a lot of coaches are, they're passionately supportive of their club.
Yep. Yep.
And you love it. And that's why you'd play for Ross Lyon, and I just thought it was hilarious.
And Dimmer as well, like he didn't miss.
No, Dimmer went the other way. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, it creates something, and we get all excited about it. You wait for Ross Lyon's post game or his pre game because you're like, I can't wait. Where if you get a coach that rolls out and he's mundane and he's just black and white, this 1 week at a time, blah blah blah, like. I loved it.
It was just gold, just absolute gold, because he does come out with some crackers. It's just brilliant. But we should, from the outside, we shouldn't smack him about it. Understand, Gold Coast get the shits with it, but we shouldn't in the media be smacking him for saying that.
I think it's gold because let the Gold Coast have an issue with it, and then we're all sitting back and it's entertaining for us. And go, I think it'll build rivalry the next time they play.
It is a rivalry now.
They're really upset, aren't they? The Suns.
Yeah.
They've come back hitting pretty strong at St Kilda, their own list management issues. So
I listened to Mark Evans, the GM on SEN yesterday, and they sort of asked him if he was offended, and he wouldn't go that far, but he wasn't happy about it. And he sort of called out all the teams for exploiting free agency, like teams that win the flag and then go and get someone like Bailey Smith. That's a bigger problem, is what he was saying. So do you guys think there's merit in what Ross Lyon said, or is it completely off the mark?
I don't think it's off the mark.
No, and I think he's got issues in the past because there was concessional picks. I don't think part of it is the Northern Academies, but I think because the Gold Coast struggled early, they went back asking for more concessional picks. So that's where, and I think he hasn't been able to get them at St Kilda. So he's just got the shits with it. But I think it's, as far as the academies are concerned, and they haven't got a heap of players from the academies on their list, but I think moving forward is essential. You look at Melbourne, I think the Victorian-based clubs have 70% local content, so homegrown players. You get to, I think, the northern teams, I think it's closer to 30, if not below. So, and when you're talking about up here, as we know very well, the attraction retention piece, and we look at it with Tassie as well, you've got to build local player base. Yeah. So you can, one, get them there because they're locals, and you can keep them. So that is a big thing as far as the Northern Academies are concerned and the Tassie Academy moving forward.
And a bit of a tease for the next segment when we're going to talk about AFL rule changes. I think one that I sprung to mind was paying 2 players on each list outside the cap, because then you could drag stars. So you've got to pay 98% in the salary cap, but the player movement then would be good, because imagine in North Melbourne having a war chest to be able to go get 2 superstars of the competition.
Want to pay anything though?
Yeah, you could pay anything.
But that doesn't help North Melbourne.
No, but I'm saying it potentially could.
No, but West Coast have got this enormous money, and they sort of have so much profit every year. They can just go and get the best. Go get Nick Dacos with a number he cannot refuse.
But you won't get him because to rip someone out of Melbourne, I think that it would favour the Melbourne clubs, and I haven't given it great thought. But I think you potentially get.
It's a good idea though.
No, but you could get so North could go and get Zach Butters and Charlie Curnow or Tom DeCone and pay him outside.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden elevate him.
But that's where West Coast, say Zach Butters and North Melbourne are going to pay him overs, so $2 million a year. West Coast, who've got that much cash, they go, no, we'll make it 5. Wow. And we go, well, hang on.
$5 million would be nice.
The richest
but that's where you can't refuse.
Well, you probably have to put a cap on what you can pay, couldn't you? You're probably up to $4 million. You could pay 2 up to $4 million or something like that.
But that is, we probably digress, but that's where the soft cap, I'm all for, because the coaches, and talking about Rossi, the gold he gives us every week, the coaches at every club, they're incredible statesmen for the game, smart, they do a great job on and off the field. I think pay them whatever you want outside the cap, outside the soft cap. So then you can pay...
Banger, dumb stores, mate.
Dunstall's mate.
Jeez.
I'll call you back later, banger.
You can take it if you want. We'll take the content.
He's probably having a chat about Dunstall. But I think, we've got to pay the assistant coaches more money. But, pay the senior coaches.
But doesn't that go
outside.
into what you were just saying, where West Coast can just buy all the best coaches in the land?
Yeah, but it's only one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So they get their best
Senior
coach
coach
there.
outside.
Yeah, just a senior
Okay.
coach. Yeah, so you
Yeah.
can't do it for the assistant coaches
Yeah.
because then you'd be able to just stockpile the best and have a massive footy department. So,
Yep.
the one. Anyway, I'll get back to Banger.
Matty Rao's contract. What do you good chance of him re-signing with the Suns?
Well, I'll go. Personally, I can't see him leaving.
Yep.
Yeah.
They sound confident.
Why the fact that it's dragged on is a bit of a concern because typically if it drags on this long, they're off.
Yep.
But I think what is he, 23 now? He's about 23 years old.
Feels like he's been in the comp way longer than that.
Well, he's post-COVID though, isn't he? I reckon he came in
Well,
maybe
he had like
COVID
2
year.
seasons out.
Yeah,
though.
he definitely played COVID.
Let's go, say he's 24.
Yeah.
I reckon he should sign for 2 years. He'll get really good money here. No, Tassie. No, but even if you're a manager, play the field. So you give him a 2-year contract. Most importantly for Matt then, he'll know whether the Gold Coast are fair income as far as are we going to contend for a flag. Because he's either going to be rich or very rich. So he's going to do well with his contract wherever he goes.
Yep.
So I'd stay for 2 years, and then that gives him the opportunity, say at 26 years of age or 25, still in the prime of his career, to go to a big Melbourne club where he wants. Tassie's in the market so they can knock his price up, and we'd probably have a dabble at him too. But I think sign for 2 years now and have a crack at being a part of something incredibly special. If you're part of the first premiership with the Gold Coast Suns,
Special.
it's absolutely special.
23 turning 24.
Yes, sign 2 years. What do you reckon?
Be prime for Tassie. I said that. I said he could potentially be the first $2 million player for those reasons.
Well, if he goes to Tassie, that's guaranteed. There's a couple of players that come to Tassie will be on well more than over $2 million bucks.
Because if he signs for 2, his value's only going to go up. He's playing good footy. Gold Coast would be silly to let him go on the basis. It depends on their salary cap because they've obviously brought in some talent, Rioli and these
Mac
guys.
Andrews on a bit of coin.
Yeah. So if they can afford him, and you'd be silly to let him go. They look as balanced as anyone in the competition at the moment, the Gold Coast Suns.
What's the risk appetite then for him if it's 2 years? He's already had some serious injuries. What if he goes down injured next year, contract year?
I think he'll be fine. I think like the quality of person he is, he's professional. He's going to get himself right. Obviously, not ideal. You never know what's around the corner. Ideally, I think you'd probably want to sign a long-term deal. It seems to be that everyone wants to sign a 10-year deal, the Alastair Lynch contract.
Well, that gives you the security, but it doesn't give you the flexibility whether, these days they'd build in the TPP increase as well into the contract. But no, I think he's got, if there is a feeling that he wants to go home, which pops up occasionally, sign 2 years. Have a go.
Where would he eat? Geelong? He's a Geelong boy, isn't he?
Yeah.
The country.
Might want to go.
Aren't they investigating Geelong at the moment?
They
for a
are.
cat?
They reckon they're going to get fined. I seen last night.
A little slap on the wrist for the Cats.
Talking about like salary caps and stuff, a good thing that the NBA does is you're allowed to pay the players you draft more than any other team can pay them. Maybe is that something you could see happening in terms of?
Hang on, take me through that.
So if you are drafted by the Sixers, let's say the Hornets actually, and you don't want to, you obviously want to go to a bigger market. These other teams can only offer you so much as a supermax or whatever, but the team you're drafted to, they can offer you more salary than any other team can.
No, right,
if you stay loyal and re-sign with them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
so you got these guys that are all homesick.
It's probably worth looking at because effectively the AFL have brought in free agency based on the American models. Yeah. So with that model, it also works in the clubs that are down the bottom if you get to pick one. So for instance, West Coast, they can potentially pay Harley Reid more than what anyone else.
Because he stays.
Because he stays.
Yeah.
I like that. And it'd be actually good for Tasmania. Your retention, like in 10 years' time, would be good if you draft a player and they go, I want to go back to Melbourne, well, here, we can give you an extra 200,000 to stay
You've
here.
developed these guys from when they're 17 to 20 odd, and then they're like, I'm heading into my prime. Let's go to Geelong.
I guess the thing here, though,
chuck that on our list that we do next segment.
You're only talking about thousands of dollars over here, though, whereas NBA, you're talking
millions,
$1 to $2 million differences.
But I think, if you was to say it's an extra 200K,
that's significant.
But we're talking about percentage. Like if your home club can pay an extra 20% or whatever because you're staying, it's interesting.
Worth looking at.
Before we jump to a break, it's a bye week coming up. We've already spoken about the Blues. They need a bye and they need a week off. The Dogs have one as well. And you guys seem pretty confident that they're still a finals contender, but they've lost 2 of their last 3, down pretty big early against the Cats. The comeback was very impressive. And I've read this morning that I think they've offered Luke Beveridge a 2-year extension. I'm not sure if he's accepted it. Does that surprise you at all, 2 years?
I don't think so. I mean, he's been there and done it. The frustrating thing, I think, with Beveridge in the past is it seems like they threw their players everywhere, and you didn't know who was going to play forward. They look a lot more settled this year, and they're performing a lot better. They've had a couple of injuries. They get them back. I think he's coaching as good as he ever has. I think there's still a chance to go on. I think the 2-year extension's probably absolutely valid the way they're going. Yeah,
I agree totally. And you got some injured players to come back. I think Liam Jones comes back this week. Sam Darcy in a couple of weeks. And they are playing well. And their midfield's flying.
Yeah. They're elite midfield. Like the group, they've continued to prove that. And they were close. They lost to the Suns up there, which the Suns in Darwin's near impossible to beat at the moment. And Geelong down there is also the same thing. The one that speaking of coaching, I thought they might have had a press conference this week going into the bye was Port Adelaide.
Yeah, I thought
you reckon it's close?
Yeah. Well, the decision's made. Yeah. So just what stage are you going to announce the finishing date? They're not going to play
finals now.
No.
I wouldn't have thought. They've won 4 games. They got touched up. They've got some injury concerns. I think give Kari a bit of clear air towards the end of the year. See what he's got in the bonnet to use, because they've on-traded their picks as from last year, so they don't have the first rounder. Find out about a few guys, see what you want to do, what he wants to do. I would make the call if it was me personally.
Yeah, and probably Kenny's waiting for them to make the call as well. He's not going to make the call.
Nah, there's no interest.
He wants the payout.
Yeah. So I thought Koshy might have done it this week, but
he's come under fire a bit this week. You're close though with a lot of the guys that are still playing. Like, do you have any sort of feel what's going on behind the scenes there? Because what message does this send the team? Like, we're just putting the queue in the rack for the rest of the year and riding it out with Kent.
Well, yeah, I don't certainly speak to him about that, and I know a fair few people there, obviously, so I don't really get involved in that, but just from an external point of view looking in, I think you're spot on. Like, why wouldn't you try and implement the game plan that Kari wants and give it a test run for 12 weeks, see if it's any good, see if he needs to tinker it, instead of doing the game plan in the summer against your teammates. And it's not ideal and it's not easy to implement a new game plan mid-season, but why not try it? You've got time. You've made the decision. Here's your man. Josh Carr's your man. Well, give him the keys now, in my opinion, so that he can tinker with it. They love Ken, and I'm sure it's just one of those unique scenarios that we've seen time and time again doesn't work when you put a succession plan in place. You
don't reckon they would be doing Kari's game plan now? Would make some
I don't
tweaks?
think so.
No.
Knowing Ken, he's always got a lot of control over how he's playing, and it's still his baby. It's still his brand. So I don't think so, but I could be wrong. He could be driving the bus. I doubt it. I think it's still Ken's team. So until you make the decision,
get some runs on the board. I think that applies for the Swans too. Like, we put the pen through them, get some games in the younger players. Like, there's nothing. I know we're only at round 12. Sounds strange to be saying that.
And that's happened in some form because of the injuries anyway.
Yeah, it has.
So, and I think, they're tweaking some game plan changes off the back of how they lost the grand final.
Yep.
So they changed a few things there, and just players are getting used to it. And you got some stars out of the side. So I don't think it's probably a little bit surprising, but you don't think, any coaches in trouble or anything like that. Coxie's just there's a new message, new game plan. It's taking time.
It's hard to take over a team when they've just been so thoroughly beaten in a grand final. How do you get that motivation? What's the message there in the next season? Like for you guys, I know you've obviously won some GFs, and it's hard to back up after winning, but losing, do you think that would be more difficult to get that motivation?
Well, you're scarred, and when you're in the grand final, you've got to, and you've either won or lost, you've got to do a shitload of work to get back, especially if you've lost. You've got to do a heap of work to get back just to try to erase that horrible memory of the bad loss. So it's a lot of work, but obviously if you've had a couple of big losses in grand finals, you've got to look at why'd that happen. And I mean, Brisbane had their best game in 20 years on grand final day, but probably the main thing was this uncontested marking where they took a ridiculous amount of uncontested marks, just pulled apart the Sydney Swans. So that was an adjustment the Swans had to make defensively. So they're just trying to implement that, and then that impacts a little bit with their offensive game as well. Then
do you think you can overanalyze one game? When they were the best team for the most of last season.
Well, they were the best team for 2/3 of the year, really, but they were out in front.
I think you potentially can do it. Like they said that they reviewed it pretty strongly, and they spent, I think they said something silly. It was like 4 hours on the first 5 minutes of the game or something.
Yeah.
Like you can overanalyze it.
Wouldn't that be bad?
That's a long film session.
And that was another
a lot of pausing.
That was another Wolsey thing too, and this is the days when your remote was actually had a wire going to the TV.
You've lost it.
And Wolsey he just pushed replay, and he'd look at you and just replay it again, look at you.
No words.
Oh, no.
Jack would still have that, wouldn't you? You're still running the Android and stuff. The cable.
Yeah, the Motorola phone.
I think with Sydney, I think you can't underestimate their injuries. I think Papley, Goulden, and a few of those guys, they're big outs.
Yep.
They're big outs.
Yeah.
Lynchy, we'll let you take that phone call, mate.
Bloody hell.
We'll take a break and we'll come back and we're going to chat about our top 5 things we'd like to see changed in the game. You are listening to AFL Unpopular Opinions. This week, boys, we're going to talk about the top 5 things we'd like to see. Now, this is going to be a pretty broad list, and there's plenty going on behind the scenes at the AFL where lots of changes are being suggested about umpiring and fixtures and all that kind of thing. So we're going to go rapid fire here around the table, and we might narrow it down to 5 that we like at the end. So, Rocky, I know you've already thrown a few in the hat already. Anything else?
Yeah, so I said 2 players outside the cap. You can pay them whatever you want, but Lynchy debunked that one pretty quick. So you probably have to cap what you could pay them outside the cap. So maybe.
But if we were one of those 2 players,
you'd be happy to take the $4 million. No worries. The ones I would change: umpires full time. I think it's time, and potentially go back to 3 instead of 4.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
Coaches soft cap increase. So for the assistant coaches, that needs to increase. It hasn't increased pre-COVID. They need to bring free-to-air Saturdays back.
Yeah, great one.
I know that you're Fox. So
yeah, but it's not a Fox decision.
No,
it's a Channel 7 who decided to.
Yeah, and the AFL. You need free-to-air on a Saturday. You need it on a Saturday night and as one Saturday afternoon game. There was nothing better than when you used to come off local footy, you'd see the end of the game on free-to-air. And Saturday night, you need to have a game for people. I think we need a mental health round with what's going on within the AFL at the moment. I think we have rounds for a lot of things, but a mental health round, I know we have Spud's game, but I think you'd extend it out and do a lot more awareness around it.
100%.
Thursday and Friday nights, they have to be limited to the top 6. So if you finish top 6 the year before, they nearly take up every Thursday and Friday night game because we can't have Essendon, Richmond, and games. I think we had St Kilda, Freo the week.
Carlton's got like 4 more Friday night games.
So what's the rule there? It has to be at least one side within the top 6?
Yeah, at least one,
like
and one
Richmond?
that we think's going to improve or something like that, because there's some dead set fizzes.
100%.
They're mine.
Good. No, very good. All right, mine. I'll back over a couple of oldies. So this is what I think they should address. So the bye before the grand final. I've beaten on about that for ages. Got to do it for so many reasons, because the Brownlow medal, get everyone there the week before, make sure we avoid the concussion protocols of 12 days, and it's our biggest game of the year. Let's get everyone there cherry ripe. Stop delaying the game. Change it straight away. So we're delaying the game for all sorts of things. The one thing I want to see changed is when there's a stoppage around the ground and the umpire waits for the ruckman to run 30 metres to come over there. Just grab it and chuck it up, because that also doesn't allow the midfielders to set up their structures, so it'll become less structured, and it should open up more. So pick it up, throw it up.
Yeah, I like that.
And I reckon the boundary throw-in too. You see the boundary umpire was waiting, and then throws it in. No, just chuck it in.
Yep.
So I reckon get that going.
I do like that.
And I've raised this one before. Get rid of the bounce.
Yep.
Get rid of the bounce. We don't do it around the grounds now. We do it as a. I suppose it's a.
To start the game, if you get your best bouncer in there,
Just
put
one,
a bit of pressure in them.
Well,
There's
put
nothing
pressure
better than grand final day when it goes boom
and goes.
Maybe they need a.
They called it back last year. All right. So with the bounce thing as well, and again because it reduces your pool. So one, you've got to be a great athlete. And then you've got to be a good bouncer to umpire AFL football. Then you pick the best decision makers out of that.
Yep.
I still reckon there should be a mandatory 100-kilo umpire.
Yeah.
And he doesn't run, but he makes good decisions.
Centre circle umpire.
Yes. And with that, with the bounce going, and this has crept into it, and this is a space you used to watch a lot from your position. The ruckmen are standing next to each other at the centre bounce and just wrestling.
That is like, get the knees up.
I get you can't come from 20 metres and crash into each other like the 80s.
Yep.
But maybe they've got to stand on the edge of the circle and they have to jump. So they jump at each other. So throw it up.
Yeah.
And so, but they start 3 metres back and jump.
The Adam Goods rule, that one.
What's that one?
The circle came in when he hurt himself.
Oh, when the PCLs? Yeah.
So
anyway, but just got to have them jump. I raised this one a couple of weeks ago. Suns to play all home games on the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
the AFL.
Well, the AFL are trying to grow the game, absolutely, and Darwin should have games of footy every year. And I don't care who it is, but not the Gold Coast. We've had 2 games on the Gold Coast this season so far at halfway mark of the year, so it should have been 3 with Cyclone Alfred. But we want to grow this. We want the Gold Coast Suns to be the first successful, sustainable club in professional sport based on the Gold Coast. So we've got to get into the habit of every second week we have crowds knowing they can go watch the Gold Coast Suns. Yeah. So
at
I get
Nepo
it.
Stadium, is it called?
People First Stadium?
At Nepo Stadium, is it?
Yes, that's nice.
I don't think is it People's First?
Is it People First?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's People First.
Yeah, People First,
yeah. So I reckon, we've got to do that, and starting now. They're a good team. They're going to play finals the next few years.
Yeah.
No more away games. So they can rotate that for the teams that play 18 games in Melbourne.
Yep, okay.
They'll probably have about
rotate them in Darwin.
12,000 there this week as well against Freo. Freo won't draw a crowd, and
Same
people won't know.
1,000 less than St Kilda,
and they haven't been there for 6 weeks. So
and it's on at midday.
And the rain stopped for the first time in ages, so they might go to the beach. What else have got? This is a grey one. Don't know. You've got to change the rule. You know, the Alex Pearce one. So by the time, this is, what are we, Tuesday morning? Alex Pearce to go in the tribunal tonight.
3 games,
He can't get 3 weeks.
No.
So it's either 0 or 3 weeks. He's going to get a suspension. The bloke's concussed.
Yeah.
So put in the rule change, and now Laura Kane raised this about 4 weeks ago, that they'll probably make an adjustment to this rule change so there's flexibility, so you can get 1, 2 or 3 weeks. Make the change now. Make it straight away now. So he's going to get suspended, but he was going for the ball.
Yeah, his eyes are on the ball the whole time.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my few.
Those are good. I have a few that tie in with the fixture. I've already said no more Carlton on a Friday night. But I also think games like the Showdown should be standalone on a Saturday night. Don't put something side by side with the Showdown. That's taken away from it. Give other teams a crack at games like Dreamtime at the G. I'm fine with Anzac Day still being Collingwood and Essendon, and Easter Monday even Hawthorn, Geelong. But I think, I don't know. You've already said Friday night wasn't good, Rocky. So
it was rubbish.
Yeah.
And That used to be a Saturday night, didn't it? The Dreamtime.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think we're at a point now where we could maybe rotate a few different
Not sure you're going to
teams
get
in
that
there.
one over the line, but anyway.
No, I probably won't. This one isn't really a rule, but there's a lot of marks that get paid that are clearly over the boundary line. There was one in that Geelong game, I think in the second quarter, and I can't remember who it was, but it ended up being a goal. We need some sort of technology now where you can say that ball was over the line. And BT will be the biggest advocate for that. So
There was
Out of bounds.
remember there was the chip coming into the balls tested in the AFL last year?
work.
No, must have been no good, so
Well,
they've
Chris
sacked that.
Scott alluded to it in his post-match press conference.
Oh, did he?
He said the chip technology goes, I might have a bit of inside that it doesn't work.
Oh, right.
So I
okay.
don't think it works.
yeah, okay. Less team jumpers.
Yes.
The clash on Friday night in Cats Dogs game was when I switched it on about midway through the first quarter. I thought it was the flip, like the two teams were different because it looked like Geelong was in Bulldogs colours and vice versa. I just think we got way too many. And I think we need like a heritage round or a rivalry round, set that in stone. All teams in the old school jumpers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like it.
In the old school material as well.
Bring it back. Back to
Lace up jumpers.
Yeah, good. All
They
right,
don't
there's-
even know what lace up jumpers were, do they? Used to be lace up jumpers.
You've lost me again.
I've got a bit of overlap here, but let's shoot them out.
Going last once again. which is
Yeah,
hard.
exactly.
Yeah,
They pitch up both times. We'll rotate gather round. SAs, they're hogging it a bit too much. Yeah, it's a great event down there, but we got Tassie entering the comp soon. You know, it's about growing the game, so stop having it next door to Vic where they just have their little holiday. West Coast would love to have it. Bring it up to Brisbane, same weekend as Magic Round.
Is this because you didn't get the snout in the trough?
Didn't get...
You missed out on the gig.
No, I went up there and I thought it's better sitting in the stands than networking. So, no, I was just enjoying the footy, boys. Actually,
Free
pitching-
beers too, eh?
Yeah, sneaking a few beers out.
On the AFL dime.
Fix or scrap the score review. So,
Yeah.
I think they spend way too much time on the score reviews. The image, there's better images of the Loch Ness Monster out there. Or
When
the
we walked
Yetis.
on the moon.
Mate, yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're using your phone.
Yeah.
The
All
camera
right.
in your phone, which is 30
Boys,
years old.
I can take. I can get. All right. Anyway, I mean, you got the Hawkeye in cricket. They're doing 3D modelling in European soccer with the offsides. Like, just get the tech or scrap it.
And wouldn't you have, if you're going to have the, what's the Snicko in the goalpost,
Yeah.
wouldn't you have it in the point post as well?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Everywhere.
Why wouldn't you do
Well,
that?
they do a lot of half-ass. So it's, again, the delay of the game that you were talking about that delays it so long. But, yeah.
Or
I
maybe
get it.
just have a captain's challenge, one captain's challenge a game or something like that.
It slows it down though. That's in league. It slows it down massively. I don't know.
Exactly. All right. I also had stop Carlton giving Carlton Friday nights, so we've doubled
Put
up
a line
there.
through Carlton.
I'm a Dons
Sunday
fan, so
afternoons.
keep the Dons in the Thursday, Friday, but get rid of Carlton. Here's a controversial one. Bring back the 20-game season and add State of Origin. I don't know how you guys would work in State of Origin. What do you think the best format would be there?
Goes
Is
to
it-
Lynchies, I reckon.
Yeah.
I reckon you play it the bye, so you don't have the grand final teams.
Yeah.
But you say, look, there's a big incentive, just a one-off.
Yeah.
Before
You've got to pay the
Fine.
players. You
Yeah.
got to make
Like
it-
Origin,
yeah.
they pay them a big
Yeah.
whack in rugby league
It was
as
30. It'd be more now, wouldn't it, for Origin?
well. It was
It'd have-
30, was it?
It'd have to be 40, I reckon.
Yeah,
so
I'd
if you,
say so.
If you play 4, there's an extra 120.
Yeah.
Sorry, play 3, there's an extra 120.
Or
Yeah.
could you do periodically, every handful of years have it the old National Carnival? Well, this is going back
Yeah.
a few years. 88, they had a National Carnival in Adelaide in February, so you get all the teams there.
I'm not as big on State of Origin.
Yeah. But if you do it right, it's very tribal. It gets people like casuals into the game as well. The whole state gets around it. And like you've got people that support North, give them something to cheer on once a year. Like,
Says the Bombers supporter.
Final in 22 years. North have won finals in that
give me a
time.
break. Give me a break. Another controversial one, cap father-son picks.
Oh,
Nah.
So maybe one every 3 years, or make them like pay substantial compensation for them rather than this 20% point system in the draft. Make them actually fork out some picks.
Yeah, well, they're stiffening up that, so it's more expensive to get academy and father sons now. But I think they'll continue to stiffen that up. But you'll always be able to get your best one, I would have thought.
Yeah,
and that's realistically that's an issue with Tassie coming in.
Yeah, exactly.
You look at and that's going on last year's under 15s. If you looked at the best 15 footballers in the under 15s and say that is the top 15 picks in the draft, 10 of those are compromised. So 10 were either NGAs or father sons, and that's not the count. Also, the Gold Coast, the Queensland team was 100% academy players. Yeah. So Tassie with the you couldn't get them.
Yeah.
So you got to be able to have access, and clubs got to be able to have access to that.
Tassie even coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm hearing that stadium.
Put a roof on that stadium.
Yeah, no, we'll be right. No worries. At big meetings today, actually.
With Matty Rowell?
Matty Rowell, yeah. If we can get him to sign this 2-year deal at the Gold Coast Saints for a big show.
Yeah, okay.
I see you're sending messages through again. Yeah. Avid listener, Matty Rowell.
Friend of the show.
Make sure you've got nice grass down there that he can do.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
All right, it sounds like we've got a pretty good list there. I like the one too, Jack, about shortening the season. I think the season's way too long. It's like a 7-month season. Get rid of opening round. I'm surprised no one said that.
Everyone just plays each other once. It's the fairest draw you can do.
Yeah.
How do they decide? They don't tell people how they make the draw up.
It's based on the 6. So 6, 6, 6. So if you're finishing that top 6, you're supposed to have 3 or 4 from that group, and then 1 from each below. If you're in the bottom 6, you're supposed to play those 6, but for some reason Carlton seem to be getting West Coast and North. And
well, that's where it was probably come from St Kilda that the Gold Coast draw to start the season was West Coast, Melbourne, Adelaide, North Melbourne, Richmond, and I suppose Sydney now haven't been going well, but they had a genius start to the season. So yes, it's there is a guide, but there's some tinkering, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think so.
Boys, Thursday night, Lions, Dons. Jack, you'll be at the Gabba, mate, front and centre, I'm sure.
Yeah, look, I'm riding high from this weekend, especially with Angus Clark's debut. But
it looks good.
I think his second game might not be as favourable.
Yep.
So they've got the mid-season draft. They reckon Essendon are going to play someone that they pick up.
Didn't Scotty make the joke that they will actually draft someone out of Queensland so they can get to the Gabba quick?
Yeah.
So they've obviously got an earmark. I wouldn't be surprised if Essendon go well in that, only on the basis that we've seen teams with 5-day breaks really struggle, and Brisbane are coming off it. We've seen them when Collingwood touched them up a few weeks ago. Essendon have the longer break. That might be a bit closer than we think.
We did beat North by 2 points, and they beat the Lions.
Great form line. All right, boys, that might do us for this week.
Beautiful.
We'll do it again next week. Recap round 12. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Lynchy. Thank you, Rocky. Thank you, Jack.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website